welcome back to another Tea Time with me, Amanda Prochaska. I'm so glad that you're here today. We're going to be talking about a very, very important topic around ultimately delivering maximum value on your procurement digital transformation. So grab your drink of choice. Let's talk about this for the next, 15, 20 minutes about how you can do this more effectively as a procurement leader. All right, before we dive in, my Zion National mug here, my favorite place on earth. My tea today is thinking of you, and I think about you guys all the time. Procurement leaders, other change leaders out there, how do you make sure that you deliver maximum value on your initiative? Let's go ahead and dive into that today. First, we're going to talk about why people get stuck. Like what is the challenge with these projects? And then we're going to talk about several different ways to make sure that you can overcome those challenges. So first off, let's talk about why people get stuck. And I tell our customers all the time at Wonder Services, the 3 places that people get stuck in any implementation that I've ever been part of in procurement when it comes to a digital platform is 1, design. They cannot make answers to those open questions. So they can't come to conclusion. There's lack of alignment. They struggle with the end-to-end consequences of their design decisions, and people will swirl in design. In fact, we know of a company right now that has I think now like a 4-month delay on their implementation, and they're still in design because they had such a hard time making decisions. Okay, so that's where people get stuck. Design decisions are tough. We're going to talk a little bit about how to avoid that today. The second part is integrations. Integrating systems, even though it's gotten a lot easier to do, it usually is not a technical issue that causes the delay in integrations. It's one of the biggest risks on any project is lack of resources. So we're gonna go into how to avoid that today too. Integration delays always seems to be an issue. The third one, and of course near and dear to my heart, is change itself, change adoption. What do we want to do to drive change forward? Do we want to delay, think about the rollout differently? How do we segment it? All of that kind of stuff. It's a very big challenge when it comes to digital transformation success, is getting your change right, making sure you spend the amount of time that you need to on your people and bringing them along on the change. Okay, so I have 6 different points to go through with you today about how to avoid getting stuck in those areas. So the first one is, and I'm just going to start off with the one that I have the most passionate about, and that is having a proper change strategy. Now, what do I mean by that? It's not just training, it's not just communications, it is not just engagement, which people forget about the most, but you have to be thinking about your overall strategy as what we consider a backbone. This is ideally how we would like to approach the change. However, in any good change management activity and strategy, it's always flexing, it's ebbing and flowing, and every type of communication is an opportunity for feedback. So as you're getting that feedback, you're incorporating it, and it's really rolling into something bigger as you continue to do that strategy. So how do you avoid the issue around change is having a change strategy, adapting that change strategy throughout the program, and how you're executing it also is agile along the way. And then the third one is simply having money in your budget so that you can bring in people to either execute that change management strategy or to develop that change management strategy with you. You don't need budget all the time, but it goes a long way to avoid the 3 risks that I was talking about earlier, particularly risk number 3 around change. So that's number 1. The second out of the 6 that we're going to be talking about today is lack of a bigger picture. Okay. So often we get kind of consumed with our own world. We are thinking about what we need to deliver. But when it comes to effective change communications, also maybe even your design and how the integrations come together, it's always good to have a bigger picture around you. So whether that bigger picture is, hey, this is how this initiative ties into the top 5 strategies of the company, or even within procurement, sometimes you have just a lot going on. And so from an end user standpoint, it can feel like discrete initiatives until you tie it together to the bigger picture. So if you have a digital procurement strategy, take the time to have that strategy first before you start deploying, or at least know enough about how you want to tie in all of these initiatives into a bigger picture message. It also helps you from an architecture standpoint to understand how you want to integrate and how you want to design the process if you understand what that bigger picture might be. And again, that bigger picture can be just within the 4 walls of procurement. It could be within the 4 walls of supply chain. It could be in the 4 walls of finance, or it could just be at the highest level of the company, the top 5 initiatives, as I mentioned before. So try to find that bigger picture, define it. It will help you really reduce the issues on all 3 of the areas that people get stuck, which is design, integrations, and change. Okay, the third aspect of what we're talking about here, this is a big one. This is why I started Wonder Services, by the way. So I'm going to take a drink here. And this might be a little bit controversial too, just so you know. So when I started Wonder Services 5 years ago, the major theme that I was seeing is that procurement leaders were outsourcing their leadership to system integrators. And the way that this shows up is who's running your steerco meetings, your sponsorship meetings, any type of large leadership update. Who's leading that meeting? Is it your system integrator or is it you? Also, if you are having large kind of like town halls or anything like that, is your system integrator leading it or are you? Those are quick indications of where I always find where we're at on a project when we're stepping into the middle of something. If you have your SIs leading those large meetings, particularly with your steercos, I would say that you've outsourced your leadership to your SI. Now, you might have a phenomenal system integrator. That's cool. Most of the time, they are phenomenal in certain ways. However, you know your business more than they do. You know what you want to accomplish more than they do. You ultimately are going to have to be the one that sustains the results once they're gone. Your incentives are longer term than theirs are. They just want to get that project done and move on to the next one. You know your strategies more than they do. They know how to configure a system and integrate it. You're the one that's going to have to drive that change forward. You might have a partner helping you with the change strategy, but at the end of the day, you are the one that is going to truly transform your organization. So do not outsource your leadership to any third party, including your SI. You need to be at the helm. It is one of the biggest things that I see time and time again. When we walk into a situation and it's like, oh, we didn't get the results that we wanted, or we didn't get the return on the investment that we wanted, part of the reason is because the procurement leader thought their SI was going to transform their organization. And that frankly usually does not happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It just doesn't usually happen. So you need to, as a leader, maintain that leadership. Be accountable for the design decisions, drive those forward, get the alignment, make sure that you have the resources available on the integrations, understand your change strategy, and be one of the most vocal people and engaged people on that change management strategy. There's a lot for you to do, and your SI will be great in certain lanes, but you are needed to be at the helm. You are the captain of that ship. So do not think that your third-party partners are going to transform your organization for you. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox around that and go on to number 4. And this is something that I also see a lot, and it is really focused around, well, maybe all 3 of them, but it happens during your design. And I already brought up that it's just so hard to get to kind of an end-to-end perspective and that alignment to get those decisions made around your design. So one thing that we do at Wonder Services that is a huge benefit to the longer term is getting alignment to certain kind of overarching questions before you even kick off the project. And I love giving this example, but I think it will resonate with most people listening here. We had a client, and a couple of years ago, we were doing what we call a case for change workshop, where we ask some of these larger questions in 8 different pillars. So we go through people, organization, technology, process, policy, metrics, data, and culture. Okay, so there are 8 different categories, and we have about 12 questions per category. So we were going through this, and we were at the process piece first, and one of the questions was, do you want to have purchase orders for all of your invoices? And resounding across the board, we rate these questions 1 to 5. So you don't necessarily need to have an answer, an exact, precise answer, but we're gauging what levers are we going to pull during this design, so we at least have that alignment going in. So everyone in the room ranked it a 5, which means it is extremely important to do as a part of this project is to get every single invoice to be PO backed. Okay, cool. We were all aligned. Everything was hunky-dory. Then we go around to the policy piece. And one of the first questions was basically related to the ability to change policy, right? Are you, as part of this initiative, going to be changing your policies? And everyone was like resoundingly against it. So it was a 1 across the board. Again, great alignment. But then I was thinking, this doesn't make any sense, because usually when you go 100% purchase order, you have a no PO, no pay policy. And so we started prompting a little bit in the room, and it was like, policies, act of God to change one, big deal in our company, rarely have policies, but when we do, they're the most important ones, and we just don't think we're going to get alignment to doing that policy. It's going to slow us down. We need to figure something else out, which meant process became so much more important, you guys. So that's the kind of alignment, because then we had to put in process controls into the mix. That was super important to do on the process side versus relying on a policy. So I hope that resonates, but those are the kind of conversations you can have before you even kick off the project, because what's going to happen is now we know out of those 8 different levers that we have 4 of them that are super duper important that we must focus on as part of our initiative. The other, maybe there's 2 out of the remaining 4 that we're like, kind of in the middle, maybe nice to have, maybe not overly needed, but kind of in the middle. And then 2 that were completely off the table. So if you can go into your design with those conversations and that alignment, it makes determining what your success metrics are much easier. It helps you define success. It helps you make those design decisions so much more effectively because you already know that information going in. We highly, highly, highly recommend doing a case or change workshop before you kick off your project. Okay. The next one is all about defining success. So this is number 5. Defining success, people look past this all the time. They put so much effort into getting the money that they forget that it's not just about the ROI. You really need to define success for everyone involved, okay? So often too, we see people define success and it's only about procurement, or it's only about AP and it's not about anyone else. And that gets you off to a really, really rocky start. So when we talk about defining success, it's in two different areas. One is setting a vision. Again, not a run-on sentence, not full of jargon. It's very straightforward what the vision is. And I'll give you an example from a past client. It was make purchasing easy. As easy as that. That's the vision. We're making purchasing easy. So all the design decisions, all the change messaging, all of the integrations, we're all focused on making purchasing easy. Okay? So there's other ones that you can leverage. Obviously, depends on your focus of why you're doing what you're doing, but that's hopefully a great example of it's not jargon laced, it's very short and sweet, it's memorable, and you go on from there. The other part of defining success is what are you going to measure? And we call these success metrics. There's usually 3 to 5 of them, and they're leveraged in your design. So I used to call these my true north. Still to this day, I use that with my clients because it is so important to know what you're measuring and how you're going to measure it for your design decisions to be made. You also leverage those in your change messaging. So for those people who are very metric driven, they're numbers people, they're analytical, they want to know what does success look like from a number standpoint. So it's a huge part of any initiative. Getting that well-defined will set you up for success in so many ways. The last one that I'm going to call out, and number 6 here today, is assess risk. Risk sometimes gets a bad connotation to it. Risk is actually good, especially if you're assessing it and finding it early. So what we do is what we call a vertical startup assessment. It's how quickly are you going to get to your defined success metrics post go live? Are you looking at getting up and running in 30 days? Whatever that might look like. The faster you do it, the more productive your teams are, the better off you're going to be. And so we take our companies, our clients through 100 different questions about risk. One of those, I already mentioned it earlier in the video, is around resourcing. This is a huge opportunity for most companies, is understanding, do we actually have the right people in the right roles, the right availability for, let's just say, your IT folks to build the integrations? If you don't, how do you solve for that? So when we go through these 100 different questions, we come up with our highest risk areas, and we can put mitigation plans around it then, right? You want to know what those risks are so you can mitigate them right out of the gate so you avoid them becoming issues and you can move on. We do this at each and every milestone typically. So we'll do it at the very beginning of the project. We will do it at the end of design, at the end of build, heading into move to production, so that you can really understand where those risks are and how many of them are still very much in the forefront that you still need to mitigate, but how many of those hopefully have been mitigated and they're no longer risks. So if you do that effectively, you can avoid a lot of the delays in your design, your integrations, and your change, because you're always thinking about it. Okay, I have a risk over here. How am I going to mitigate it? I have a new risk that's popping up. How do I mitigate it? And you just continue to go through that. And at the end of the day, you're going to have a smoother go live as a result, and hopefully more sustainable success long term. So if you want to read more, I had such a great time putting together an ebook with our partners over at Graphite. The link is below. I've only covered 6 different areas, but we actually covered way more in that ebook. So if you want to learn more about how to avoid the most common issues in your digital transformation project, please read the ebook. You're going to, because you are educating yourself, you're going to be able to deliver more value to this project and get greater returns as a result. So with that said, I am so glad that you were here with me today. If you've liked this video, hit the like button and hit the thumbs up and the subscribe. I am Amanda Prochaska. I'm the founder and Chief Wonder Officer of Wonder Services. we're so thrilled to be able to bring you this type of information so that you can be successful in each and every one of your change efforts. So until next time, cheers and have a great day.